Tales from Ramakrishna, retold by Irene R. Ray and Malika Claire Gupta. The Cobra. There was once a cobra who lived in a hole under a large tree. The tree stood in a corner of a field near a village. All the people of the village were afraid of the cobra. He was always angry. If anyone went near his tree, the cobra would rush out and bite him. Many people had died in this way, for the cobra's bite was very poisonous. The boys of the village had to pass through that field every morning when they took their cows into the jungle. They always kept to the footpath and never went anywhere near the cobra's tree. In the evening, too, on their way home, the cowherd boys hurried through the field, taking great care to keep out of the cobra's way. One evening, a young monk arrived in the village. The cowherd boys saw him go into the temple. The next morning, they saw him again. They were driving their cows towards the jungle when the young monk came along and walked with them. Namaste ji, said the boys politely. The monk returned their greeting, and on they went together. When they reached the field where the cobra lived, the monk stood still and looked around. He pointed to the tree in the corner. That is a fine tree, he said. I shall go and sit under it for some time. I want to meditate. The boys were alarmed. No, no, Maharaj, they cried. Don't go anywhere near that tree. Why not? Asked the monk. What's wrong with it? You are new to our village, replied the boys, so you don't know. A terrible snake lives under that tree. He's a huge cobra, and he's always angry. He bites people and they die. He won't bite me, said the monk. The boys were surprised. Why not? They asked. How do you know he won't bite you? He's a very wicked snake. He won't bite me, the monk said again. I know some mantras, you see. I shall say a mantra to him, and when he hears it, he will become quite quiet and gentle. You can come with me if you like. I'll show you. But the boys were afraid. They did not dare to go near that tree. We have to look after our cows, they said. We are taking them to the jungle. So the boys went on their way, and the young monk went towards the tree in the corner of the field. As the monk drew near the tree, the cobra rushed out of his hole. The monk stood still. The cobra raised his hood. He hissed angrily. He was ready to bite the monk. At that moment, the monk recited a mantra. Immediately, the cobra lowered his head. He lay quietly on the ground, as harmless as an earthworm. I'm going to sit under this tree and meditate, said the monk to the cobra. Do not disturb me. Very well, Maharaj, replied the cobra. The monk sat under the tree. He recited mantra after mantra in a deep and rich musical voice. Then he fell silent as he entered into deep meditation. Some hours passed while the monk meditated. Then he opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was the cobra, still lying on the ground before him. So, you are still here, said the monk in a gentle voice. Yes, Maharaj, replied the cobra humbly. The boys told me that you have bitten many people, the monk said. Your bite is poisonous. When you bite people, they die. Don't you know that? Yes, Maharaj, I know they die, said the cobra. Then, replied the monk, don't you think it's a very wrong thing to do? Yes, Maharaj, said the cobra. I often wish I could get rid of my bad temper, but I don't know how to. If you want a thing very much, replied the monk, you will certainly get it. Perhaps you don't try hard enough. Please teach me how to be good, Maharaj, the cobra begged. I shall tell you a holy word, the monk said. If you repeat this word over and over again every day, you will learn to love good and be good. So the monk taught the cobra a holy word and gave him the name Nagraj. Now I shall leave you, said the monk. Remember now, Nagraj, Repeat the holy word and do no harm to anyone. Yes, Maharaj, the cobra promised. I shall remember. As the monk walked away from the tree, he turned once more and looked at the snake. I shall leave the village tomorrow, he said, but I shall see you again after 1 year. That evening, the cowherd boys hurried back to the village. They were anxious to know if the cobra had bitten the monk. When they met the monk, they asked him what had happened that morning. He did not bite me, said the monk. He will not bite anyone now. He is a good cobra. At first, the boys did not believe that the cobra would no longer bite. But as time passed, many people noticed that the cobra had become quite gentle. Gradually, the village people forgot their fear of him. Now he never bit anyone. The cowherd boys often saw the cobra when they passed through the field on their way to the jungle with their cows. Whenever they saw him, they threw stones at him. The cobra took no notice of them. Only his lips moved as if he were muttering something. Sometimes a stone hit the cobra's back and made it bleed, but the cobra never became angry. One evening, the boys were throwing stones at the cobra as usual. Suddenly, one of the boys became very daring. He picked up the cobra by the tail and swung him round and round and round. The other boys laughed and cheered. Then the boy suddenly let go of the cobra's tail. The cobra went flying through the air and fell to the ground. As he fell, his head hit against a rock. He lay there, still and bleeding. Hurrah! Shouted the boys as they rushed home. The wicked cobra is dead at last. But Nagaraj was not dead. Late at night, when he felt a little better, he crawled slowly and painfully back to his hole under the tree. Now he had to stay in his hole. He was too ill to move. He had nothing to eat. He grew weaker and weaker. However, he continued to repeat the holy word the monk had taught him. Gradually, his wounds healed and he was once more able to go out. But now he only went out at night when no one was about. He quickly ate a few leaves or a little fruit he found lying on the ground and then hurried back to his hole. 1 year later, the monk returned to the village. As soon as the cowherd boys saw him, they rushed to tell him the news. The wicked cobra is dead, they told him. Oh, he's dead, is he? Said the monk. But the monk knew that Nagaraj was not dead. He had given the cobra a holy word. The holy word would bear fruit. The monk went to the tree and stood near the cobra's hole. Nagaraj, oh Nagaraj, called the monk. I have come. Nagaraj slowly came out of his hole and bowed to his teacher. How are you? Asked the monk. I am quite well, sir, replied Nagaraj. But why are you so thin? The monk asked. Sir, replied Nagaraj, nowadays I eat only fruit and leaves. You told me not to harm anyone, so I don't catch birds and mice as I used to. That is why I am so thin. But you look ill too, the monk went on. Something must have happened to you. Did anyone harm you? By repeating the holy word, the cobra's mind had become pure. He had forgotten what the cowherd boys had done to him. Now he tried to remember if anything had happened. Ah, yes, sir, he said. Now I remember. It was the cowherd boys. They often threw stones at me. One day they swung me round by the tail and my head hit a rock. I nearly died. The cowherd boys did that to you? The monk exclaimed. You let them do that to you? Ah, sir, boys are boys, replied Nagaraj. One cannot be angry with them. How were they to know that I had changed? They did not know that I only wanted to be good and would not harm them. Oh, what a fool you are, cried the monk. Can you not hiss at people? You have to protect yourself. Hissing does no harm. Don't bite, but hiss. Frighten bad people away so that they do not harm you. Oh, replied Nagaraj. Now I see what a mistake I made. Yes, if I hiss at the boys, they will certainly run away. I didn't think of that. From that time onwards, Nagaraj lived happily in his hole under the tree. He did no harm to anyone, and he continued to repeat the holy word his teacher had taught him. But if anyone tried to do him any harm, Nagaraj hissed and frightened him away.